Today I will be telling you about the Shamanistic tradition. The Shamanistic tradition is how cavemen kept track of time. Cavemen had a spiritual leader. This spiritual leader was called the shaman. He took care of ceremonies and other rituals. Cavemen thought of all sorts of ideas to keep track of time. In this photo story, I will be telling you how, cavemen kept track of time. The shaman were the leaders and religious leaders of primitive tribes. He was responsible for the tribe's spiritual welfare. People got smarter and smarter, and they came up with many ideas. This is just sliced bread, and this is just a cartoon. But then finally they came up of the idea of putting notches on a stick and painting on walls. To keep track of time, shamans could now perform their ceremonies, like becoming a man ceremonies, during a certain season. And when they performed it during certain season, and even a certain day, so the ceremonies would be more on time and more accurate. Shamans were the tribe's spiritual leaders. They were in touch with the elements and nature. They worshipped the gods, took care of temples, and boosted the tribe's spiritual welfare. Man created its first primitive counting mechanisms by notches on a stick or marks on a wall. Shaman and the cavemen were now happy since they could keep track of time. By using the shamanistic tradition, they could keep track of time. By what I said earlier, this shaman is most likely performing a spiritual ceremony. The Native American chiefs were another form of shaman in Native America, and there were other ways to keep track of time, such as Stonehenge, that will be mentioned later. So this is the shamanistic tradition. End of part 1. Part 2, Stonehenge. Cavemen became smarter and smarter, and eventually, within time, cavemen started to live in with bigger communities. This is just a Flintstones picture, even though it has nothing to do with the subject. This is supposedly how Stonehenge looked like when it was just built, when it was just new. A group of cavemen called the Druids built it in 2800 BC. Over time, Stonehenge wasn't taken care of too well, and it broke down. Stonehenge was a marvelous design, designed by humans. It must have been really hard to make such a marvelous design by humans without any kind of special machines of any sort. Stonehenge is still respected today by humans, tourists who often go there. Stonehenge was worshipped and was a spiritual place to visit. Take your time to look at this current faraway view of Stonehenge. Another picture of Stonehenge. Stonehenge is often visited by the Druids and other tribes. The solstices have long been special days for various religion groups and cults. Stonehenge was big, and it was always respected. It's such an amazing sight to see. Why don't you visit Stonehenge one day? The